tell you where I must to protect you and others. Acquiescing to your enslaved. For the death of freedom of father choice. Those of us don't need to like you cowards. To your doctor late. This world is wrong to be. Let me make something with you. Your words have no bearing over me. Because my mind knows no reservations but ways. So let's just stay the fuck away. Say it with me.
Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave along with Jess
David, hello.
and Craig.
Happy New Year!
Hey, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on to our topic today, wrestling resolutions. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P. 2019. Click on Linktree. You can find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Google Podcast. And anything we talk about is inspired by the WWE Network. So do yourself a favor and get your free month today to watch anything WWE, WCW, ECW, and more. Guys, you got some resolutions?
Possibly, Dave, and
Maybe
possibly
I do.
not.
Maybe.
You go around the room, we're all like, no, I got nothing. Around
Thanks for joining us. I got another.
My resolution is to up my gin intake for 2021. I'm just
Done.
Yeah,
This
done
is
and done.
this was your idea, actually,
tall
David. It's a
order.
good one on a text thread about giving resolutions for wrestling and what we would like
Yeah,
to see
man.
in
You know,
2021. So
Yeah,
this is all
broken
you, buddy.
clock gets right twice a day. So, this is my twice a day moment. Yeah, I literally said, hey, we did this awesome Christmas episode and, wishes. And we gave each other Christmas presents in the form of wrestling. I said, hey, instead of that, why don't we do, as Craig said, a resolution? And this doesn't necessarily be our resolution, what we want to do differently, but what would we like wrestling to do differently for 2021? And there's a lot of stuff that we would like to see done differently.
And people are gonna say shit. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you've never wrestled before. You've never done this. How would you know?" I've said this before on the podcast. I've paid for that, motherfucker. There was first of all, since I was 18, I've been paying for everything wrestling wise. Even before I was 18, my parents I made them buy me pay-per-views every month. So I've spent hundreds and thousands, as you guys have too, on live events, merchandise, pay-per-views. God, the 3-year core of the Monday Night War, every month, WCW and WWE had a pay-per-view.
Hey,
Sometimes
man.
I'd sprinkle in ECW in there too. I've paid for my opinion. So
Hey,
fuck you.
we're stockholders, bro. Okay.
Yeah.
So we
And
own
excuse
exactly.
me.
Yes.
I have wrestled. We had a backyard wrestling league for over
You
3 years,
did.
and I spent one
We
weekend
went-
in the California Wrestling Federation with
Jesse Hernandez
Janet and Mike.
in San Bernardino. One day we were fucking pro wrestlers.
Thank you.
Well, we were pro. We were training
Thank
like
you.
pro wrestlers. So fuck.
We
you.
threw up, got concussions, and went home. Well, I didn't. You guys did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
That was basically it. We threw up. We got bruises from the ropes. Someone said that you look like shit. That is the shits. And then we went home
That's where we
That
learned the
is the
phrase. That
shits.
is the shits. That is the shits.
because it was being said to me after my body slam when I tried to make my arm straight like an arrow.
Ah.
That was the shits.
But I'll tell you, this is
That's very
something
skinny.
we watch enough wrestling to understand what's good and what's entertaining and what's not. And you can tell by the ratings, there's a lot of things that can be changed, obviously. You could try to blame, 2020 for it, but things were in a dwindle shits before 2020 really, wreaked havoc on everything else. So we got some stuff. Who wants to get started with the first resolution?
I'm going to start out, and this I don't care. Part
Hope
of
you
my
don't steal one of
personal
mine.
New Year's
We have no
resolution-
idea, by the way.
Yeah,
What
I think we
yeah.
might have similar ones, by the way. But go ahead.
Okay, we'll see.
Part of my personal New Year's resolution is to stop apologizing for something just because somebody else takes it as the way I didn't mean it. For example, I'm going to lead right into my first one, which people are going to automatically jump on, like, oh, that you can't make fun of that person's ailment. And that's, if I was AEW, my New Year's resolution would be to change my commentator booth. Jim Ross needs to be off television. And I love Jim Ross. And
that's hard to say, by the way, but yeah.
The greatest, he's the greatest wrestling play-by-play I've ever heard. And yes, I've heard of Gordon Solie before. Yes, I've heard of other people before, but he is the best. Like, so much of my childhood is Jim Ross. Like, being excited over a 20-minute time limit, like, television title match with Z-Man and Bob Eaton. Like, but I was on the edge of my seat because he told me not to go anywhere. And every move they did, he got louder and louder, and he called it like a real sport. And that was the genius of Jim Ross.
Yeah.
Now the AEW Jim Ross is bad, and he drags the show down.
Difference.
He has Bell's palsy, and I understand. I get it. I'm not saying that's his fault or I don't have a heart for it, but the profession that he is in is to call professional wrestling at a fast pace. And not only is he later in his life, up there in age, and so he's not connected with all the moves and the current, the way you call wrestling now. It's a lot faster paced. There's different moves. He doesn't know any of it. So they cram their booth full of like 20 guys every week. It's got to be 20 commentators, because that's what it sounds like to me. You have Tony Schiavone screaming. You have Jim Ross screaming. You have Excalibur screaming. You have Taz screaming. And I don't even know. They need, if I was them, I'm not saying fire Jim Ross. Let me be honest with that. I'm not.
He has value. Yeah.
He could be on the headset and he could be in their ears and he could be telling them, because what better way is for the greatest commentator of all time to teach other people how to call wrestling. Excalibur should be play-by-play and Taz should be their color. To me, that is so fucking easy. That is a slam goddamn dunk. Taz is still plugged in enough for he could be.
Schiavone's they're more like they're
Gene Okerlund.
Yeah, they're Gene Okerlund.
They're Gene Okerlund, and that's the way. Yeah. And they used him for that for a while.
With me now.
They used Schiavone. They used him to have those moments with Cody, because I stood here with Dustin, and now you on TNT. And I get that. Same thing. Like he was there with Sting, and that's great. That's all fine. But they need. If I was AEW, my New Year's resolution would be to really untangle that clusterfuck every Wednesday that is their commentary issue, and take Jim Ross off. And it's hard to say. I respect his knowledge and I respect his expertise. Like I said, he's part of that's who I hear like in my head when I think of all the best moments of wrestling, is him up in that climax. Even on the Monday Night Wars, when him and King were awesome and they were amazing. And I will never not have his voice in my head when I think of professional wrestling and big moments and everything. However, he is a shell of a shell of a shell of his former self. And he sounds awful, and he drags it down.
You don't have to apologize for even saying that, Jess. Like, I think because when he was head of talent relations, it was his job to be frank and to tell people when they were ready, when they weren't, when they were in the hunt, what they needed to get there. And sometimes you don't see it yourself, and he probably doesn't see it himself, and he doesn't like the criticisms, and he got grouchy as he got older, and you learned how grouchy he was.
I would argue that he knows.
Yeah. He does know, and the thing is,
he's getting paid.
He thinks because he gets grouchy on his podcast with Conrad, so he thinks that is his getting even. It's like, well, listen, Jim, I know you're mad about that, and because especially when that gets brought up, he'll start bagging on people who say he should be pulled off TV and all that. I was like, no, you just should. Like, and there's no other argument there. I'm sorry to say that. Yeah, you
can
fight back on your podcast. That's great. You want to have a 6-minute segment, and he called JR's red assed now, and that's and like that's great that he wants to do it. And it's his podcast, and people listen, and Conrad has found that formula, and that's all great. I am not taking any of that away from him, and he should absolutely still be employed by AEW, because they'd be fools to let somebody with his wisdom go. But you are not the man to call wrestling now. You are not the future or someone who I want to look at when I'm a younger person. You're trying to rope me in that demographic. Jim Ross is done. Like, he's done. Schiavone's done for the most part, too.
Bro. Yeah.
I'm just saying, Excalibur and Taz all day long. I don't see how they can't see it. Less is more. This 3-person booth and 4-person booth is just fucking on all promotions is out of control.
That's too much.
Needs to change. So if I was AEW, I could say I want that for WWE too, but they're not going to listen to me anyway, like AEW will.
Well, no one's going to listen to what we say, but it's what we wish for. It's all.
But I mean, AEW is the one that's trying to be different. It's trying to re-revolutionize wrestling and get people who are sick of WWE on board, and they're doing a good job. They're getting close to 1 million viewers every week. They might have even passed it with the Brody episode. I haven't checked it. But yeah, like they're doing everything right. As far, you may not like some of their product. I know Cuz hates their product, but at the same time, like, that's fine. They're finding this different corner of the wrestling audience, and they're trying to grow that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's technical things that you have to sort out, and one of them is your commentating booth. It's too crowded. It hurts my ears. I'd rather turn the volume off than listen to it, and that's bad because you need them to tell the story of what's going on in the ring as the guys are physically trying to tell you the story. It's just not. It's all bad, and Jim Ross sounds awful. That's sorry, I know it's negative, but that's my New Year's resolution. If I was at EW, I would focus.
Well, whenever you want to change something, it's because something's not right. Obviously,
right,
you're not changing something that's good. So this
it's
is where
you
this
like
is
it.
Gonna go.
You want it to be better.
Yeah, we just want it to be better. And by the way,
and
like
I think
you
all
said,
the tools are there. You just got to streamline it. Now I'm not saying fire anybody. I'm just saying recast them.
Some podcasts will think that my time is over.
God damn.
Yeah, a lot of people
Some
think that.
podcasts
You knew that was coming. You knew that was coming. It was only a matter of time. You guys want me to go next, or what do you?
I'll go next.
You got it, Craig?
Yeah. What's mine? We just got a very small taste of interpromotional stuff towards the end of this year, and this is going to kind of stretch out to a larger point. It's going to go micro and then kind of come out to a 30,000 foot. But I would love to see this interpromotional stuff of AEW continue. It's very, very cool. I would love to see go beyond Impact. I would love to see cooperation with our Ring of Honor, with New Japan.
Is it very NWA kind of thing?
Right. Like everyone's always like, let's go back to the territories. Remember fondly the territories. And we're in a different world and there's no territories. That can't happen and that's not coming back. But what it does is it's competition to the big behemoth in Stamford, Connecticut, and it brings the best out of everybody. And to have, because it's been so closed off for decades and decades, to have this cooperation and to work as a larger wrestling community instead of just your silo and this cutthroat. I mean, to see Kenny Omega show up on Impact and to see that kind of stuff, I mean, I would love to see where it's going to go in 2021.
What may happen.
Right? Oh yeah,
talk about ratings.
Open it up to a whole new an audience and federations and companies that have been off the radar that only like the super hardcores know. Like, I think there's a lot of possibility.
God, there's a lot of things breaking off there, Craig, in my mind when you say that, because number one, when a lot of those New Japan guys broke off and helped create AEW, you tuned in just to see what was going to happen. People flooded to AEW just to see what was going to be there. Another example is we're doing another recording later, and I know it's you can check it out once it's released. But we watched a pay-per-view that had NWA constraints within it, and you would see a wrestler that's not normally a part of WCW come in, such as the Great Muta, and wrestle, and that would be a big reason to buy that pay-per-view. Now it's more for TV ratings versus the pay-per-view, but to your point, a lot of people might have bought that pay-per-view that wouldn't have bought it just because Muta was on that pay-per-view, as an example, because people love Muta from all over the world. And that was that cross promotional advertisement that you're talking about, Craig, that we miss. It's not territories. And that certainly wasn't territory. So it kind of gets back to that. Is that, am I trending where you're picking up what you're laying down?
To go even further than that, I want wrestling. I want to be in a mall or a conversation or to be with someone when wrestling is mainstream again. I want a pipe bomb again. I want an Austin again. I want a moment where you see all the guys. This is going to age us, but where you would buy all 4 TV guides because all 4 WWF guys were on TV guides that week. It was in the zeitgeist of the culture. And That's awesome. I want a moment like that again. I don't know if it's possible in 2021, but I think let everyone kind of rising in competition and that can only help if you have a bigger pool of guys all working together for the betterment of something that pops.
The more success that this angle has with Impact and AEW, the better, because all the fuddy daddies are coming out going, that makes no sense. Impact's like a flea on a dog's ass. Like, how's AEW benefiting? Okay, the territories didn't die because of lack of competition or lack of creativity. The territories died because one guy decided to close off his territory and he happened to have a Hulk. So then other people got jealous and angry and they built their walls up with their territory with really thick brick. So that's why territories died, because they tried to close themselves off, because they were afraid that someone's going to jump, or they're afraid that someone's going to show up on the title of another show with their title.
And
they
that
were
just
so
means that
scared.
eventually one's going to survive and the rest are not.
And then their shitty
Right.
regional
So,
television got swallowed
exactly.
up by McMahon.
Exactly. Vince
and he bought
had the
all their big
advantage.
talent in the process.
It was all a television ploy. Vince was advanced in production even back then. He was eons past them. And then syndicated television, he wanted to own, basically, and get paid for, like, rather than him buy the time. Vince had this
The dude
vision.
talked about a network 20 years ago.
Yeah.
With the Monday Night Wars is another example, because you talk about territory changing forever, and then Monday Night Wars change wrestling again forever. So what is the next big thing? And the next big thing could be, if anybody ever paid attention, right, would be what Craig's talking about. Like, let's have this cross promotional segment where we start to work together, but on TV we're working against each other. We're fighting each other. Who's the better? And it's kind of silly because you're talking about, like, TNA being a flea on a dog's ass, but there's some people I mean, you look at Major League Baseball, there are very, there are organizations that have very small amounts of funds compared to, say, the biggest, Los Angeles, the biggest, payroll in baseball history. And still you go 6 games in the World Series. So it doesn't matter what fleas on what dog's ass. There's always someone in TNA that can go up against someone.
But everybody needs that,
and go,
right?
This
Like,
is going to be great. And that maybe that's the next thing, is all I'm saying. There's
every
something
big star that we can
wrestling.
talk about, every big star that we can talk about, right, had to have that territory experience. They had to. We just watched the story of Moody, Paul Bearer, Percy Pringle. And all that thing is like, oh yeah, so we needed someone, we want Brother Love to be his manager forever, so we had to go get someone. Oh, what's Percy doing? Well, Percy was in a territory, so they pulled him up. Everybody that ended up going to the main stage had that territory flavor, which is what's missing now. And to Craig's point, we use the territory terminology. It's got to be a little different now because there's no such thing. But at the same time, like, as far as promotions are concerned, yes, this can be a territory success. That's an excellent subject that Craig brought up, because it is the key going forward, because Vince killed it for a while, and then it needed to go away because, again, people didn't know how to use territories anymore in the land of increasing media, increasing syndicated television. USA wants to pay Vince how much to they're going to pay him, like, and it's just wrestling. You've never seen that before. Advertisers are going to call Vince and offer Vince money for commercials on Raw. What the fuck? And then Bischoff's like, yes, they will, and we are too. And then it exploded, and now that's all it's about. They have no live crowds, and they had a massive profit during a pandemic. They had the biggest profit, I think, ever. Like, I might be off on that, but, like, definitely in modern history.
All the production values and, like, the people they have to pay for, the
networks are footing the bill for all their product costs, and then
travel was down,
but
non-existent.
The change at the evolution of the business right now, it's not even about. Before it was, we have to have people tune into our show on this network at this time. It's critical. Our guy can't show up on X, so the territories used to be, our guy can't be here on this night. It'll mess with our weekend and our ticket sales that we promote on weekly television.
Even better.
Now it's, you can access it wherever you want, whenever you want, however you want. It's going to be. It's the best that watches it. It's the best that organically, word of mouth, gets you to YouTube, gets you to Fight TV, it gets you to whatever. We are not limited by cable, by whatever. It's this community that gets us to
TV at this day on this time. We're not limited.
Yeah.
To that
Could you imagine if Pro Wrestling Guerrilla was kind of around right now, and they could up their production value, and they had found some way to kind of get beyond, like, the RF video and the DVD kind of that they had? It would be amazing.
We would travel 3 hours and pay $20 in an Elks Lodge to watch PWG.
So
it was that good. It was just that
all that to say, close the loop on it. Like, when we started, and all I started with, like, let's see the paradigm shift. Let's see interpromotional stuff continue. Yeah. Let's see what can come out of it.
And that's a good resolution, because this should be their focus. It should. This is the stuff that you see the tinge, and you remember.
They should all work together.
The tiny spark that you saw, that you always go back in time when some one wrestler exploded or a concept exploded, and you see that little, like, you remember that little spark, and then it exploded. And this, I think there's just some things that is on a big scale that Craig talked about that is there. Do it. Like, and it's working.
It's
Even
good.
if they go from 900,000 viewers to 1 million, it doesn't matter, because then AEW is going to be like, yeah, we're at 1 million. They're going to say Impact's name 1 million times on their program. And then Impact, I know this sounds silly, but normally only get like 100,000 viewers. The day that Kenny Omega came on, I think they were almost 300. I know that's still minuscule, but that little promotion
but it tripled their viewership. Yeah.
If one wrestler that was not a part of that,
that's my point,
wrestled for Impact that people never saw before, going, oh, I like that guy, and then maybe after a while,
came
like
to AEW, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
AEW could be like, hey, you know that one star you have or whatever that's been kind of just getting some buzz or whatever, like we were going to bring him up to AEW, we'll sign him to a contract. Impact's going to be like, cool, okay, keep mentioning us, or keep, you know what I mean? Like, it's just all going to work. It will all work for sure.
I don't know if I'm going to be nearly as good, but I think it rolls into the tangent of what you're all talking about. Jess, you already mentioned his name earlier based upon ratings. You talked, and Craig, you talked about that cross promotional setup. And it's crazy, but I thought of it when I thought of this idea, and I said the first thing that WWE needs to do for the Hall of Fame this year is find a way to literally induct Brody Lee or Luke Harper, Jonathan Huber, whatever you want to call him, and immediately put him into the Hall, like right now. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you look at what has happened in 2020, it's not even related to the COVID requirement issues, whatever you want to talk about, but Brody Lee touched a lot of people in the wrestling organization. And I all think that we knew, talk about restrictive being held back. I think Luke Harper was being held back tremendously in WWE, and him finally getting out and breaking out in AEW and doing what he did in a short span of time, because he was so good and he was so attentive to everyone else's needs and feelings and wants, and to be collaborative and work together, that it would just be a farce to not put that guy into the Hall of Fame. I know Death, says a lot of things that maybe didn't get said until after it happens, but this guy touched so many people, and you can tell by that episode of AEW and the bell rings 10 times, and you can see it. You can see what that gentleman did over just a short span of time. What he was, we didn't even get to see the amount of talent that was going to be there. I always loved Luke Harper. I laugh because it never caught on, but he would do like these gator rolls, and then he would just get up and he would just yell, "Hey!" Like he was this crazy guy, and he wasn't a crazy guy, but it was whatever he was trying to portray in character at the time, and his character changed dramatically over time. And I think he's incredibly underrated. He's incredibly underutilized, and right when he's about to break out, his light is diminished. And how do you not? It's almost, and I know we've argued about the Owen Hart thing. It's almost as much of a travesty, because it probably won't happen, as Owen Hart not being in the Hall at this time. Brody Lee needs to be in the WWE Hall of Fame in 2021. Mark it down. It needs to happen, for so many reasons above and beyond wrestling. I don't know. You just tell me what you think. I know it's crazy.
No, I think it's connected. Go ahead, Jess.
No, go ahead.
I think it's connected in a way to the cooperation kind of piece, because not only we're taping this on Friday Night SmackDown, where Big E did a backstage promo where he made subtle references in 5 different ways to Brody, and then 2 days before that entire 2-hour celebration of his life, and then seeing kind of Eric Rowan come back at the end of it, and then even everyone, even on Raw, on that before that, making mention to his Twitter account. Like, there is, people loved him when he was alive, and I remember his reputation, and I remember that photo when he complained he didn't have any merch, and Jericho and I cannot remember all the guys in there, but they made T-shirts and took a picture with him.
Yeah.
He was beloved before, but to see this kind of outpouring and the stories, it was universal, and it was different than Savage's death, Warrior's death. Everyone's always very, very reverent to when someone dies, but this was different. And the fact that his tenure in AEW was so close to WWF, and the fact that everyone in WWF is kind of making a nod. In the old days, Vince would never ever do anything that would really make a nod and go and if to a competitor. I think we're busting down those walls, and I agree. I don't know if it's going to happen, Dave. I don't know how Vince is going to make a dollar off it unless he can get the wife and kid there. That's terrible to say. That's in his mind, right? And I hate to even say that, but I think you're right. And I think it coming off of this week and the love that the industry showed him, I think he absolutely deserves it.
Yeah.
I think that he reminded me so much of Mick Foley because they were both like insane, quote unquote, and they weren't at all.
Yeah.
And they were just super creative, and they loved pro wrestling, and all they wanted to do was tell a story. All they wanted to do was have every action they did make sense. That's all Foley's ever preached. Just like, I wanted to make sense. I wanted to tell stories. Like I wanted them to take my character seriously. And when writers would flake me off, I'd get pissed because that's me. That's my character. You're flaking off. You're telling them, it's fine to do whatever. Like, they would take offense to it because they're professionals and they're into what they're doing. And he was just like that from what I could tell and what I've read and what I knew about him before. He was, that crazy guy with the, Wyatt family, but he wasn't like that in real life. He was super well spoken. He was a family man. He, just wanted to be super creative, and he wanted to just give me a chance. I don't want to be The Rock or Austin. I don't know if I can ever be that, but I want to know that my company's putting faith in me and that they're listening to me. That's all. And that's not, you can't please everybody, right? With how big the WWE is and how many egos there are and how many people think they should be on top. And especially when you're super competitive, Vince has got to deal with all those people, not to praise him. But that's a hard thing to do for the past 40, 50 years, like that he's done it. You have to deal, he's telling no to Hogan and Austin and The Rock. It's hard. So when someone like, Harper dies, people are just like, oh, it's bullshit. And he was so underappreciated. So were a lot of people. And I don't mean that to diminish his death at all. Sure. But it takes this sometimes for everyone to kind of be like, we don't have to be as shitty. We could listen a little bit more. Like some of the producers could, maybe they'll see that. Maybe some of the road agents will see that and be like, we can listen more. I could fight for them more. I could fight for the guys more instead of just going to Vince going like, everything's cool. And then not really repeating what some of the talent's saying. Maybe I will say, hey, why don't we change this Triple H? Or why don't we change this Vince? Or can't we throw him a bone here? Maybe if some of the other people start telling Vince and Triple H, who are so high up right now, they don't have the pulse anymore of what the little things that matter to people who are packing their suitcase every week and traveling or whatever. Those needs get lost when the higher up you get. And Vince and Triple H are as high as you, and Stephanie are as high as you get. And they don't hear that anymore. Their ears are not to the ground. They rely on people. If they have too many yes men, they will never hear the voice of the Luke Harpers. They will never hear people like Foley will never get a chance to finally make it. Ironically, Mick made it in that promotion is when he became the biggest. Is when Vince of all people's like, fucking fine. Because Jim Ross was always kind of telling him, in his own way, dude, come on. Like this is, and then other people started telling him like, no, Foley's really fucking good. Luke just didn't get, I call him Luke Harper because that's just how I know him. People didn't give Brody a chance. Like he was in that stage right now where he was something different in AEW. Another 5 years from now, maybe he goes back to the WWE. So now he could be something even more different. And that he never got a chance to live those years like Foley has over the past 30 years. He won't get that. And that sucks. But maybe our eyes are open now, and not ours as fans, because we saw it. We love the guy. But at the same time, now those other guys can probably just think, God, we should have listened more. Man, look at how in the short time he was over in AEW, what he's done. Like
the impact he had, absolutely.
We could have listened when he was here and had him here and had him, you know what I mean, in the number one company. But hey, to our advantage, we got a chance to see him shine brighter to me in AEW than he was allowed to shine in WWE. Yeah. So it's
in a very short span, by the way.
Yeah,
we're talking months. I mean,
I mean, the Hall of Fame is a little weird, just because I don't even know what it's going to look like anymore until this whole pandemic that we're in stops. Yeah. And where do you draw the line? Or people already say whatever. If Coco's in, then anyone can go in. I don't mean to pick on Coco, but people say that. I don't know. I think maybe they should definitely do a network special on him. Why not? Why not? Advertise it on USA. Why not? Like maybe he gets a branch, like, the Warrior Award. Maybe you have the a nod to him or something at the Hall of Fame or whatever, you know, like you figure, or he gets it, his wife gets it this year. It's those people, man, that like you just don't know, and I wish their stories were told more because it refreshes you. Like, you know,
it'd be
one side of
inspiring
it.
to a lot of people. Yeah, absolutely.
God, you know, we're at 35 minutes already. Maybe we
I was gonna say,
I think we're good.
Can
we had three really strong.
Can I give you one more?
Yeah, I guess we could go rapid fire, like no discussion, just like say it and move on.
I'll give you one more on the snake. This is pretty obvious, and it sounds like it may happen. They've already slapped the IC title on him just this last week. Big E needs to be a world champion in 2021. I don't care what title you slap on him. That fool needs that title on him in 2021 to see what's going to happen. Just to take Big E for a test drive, it's overdue. That's my rapid fire. It's got to happen.
Mine's weak. Right. I was just I need to watch more wrestling. I've pulled myself really away from wrestling. I don't like it without the live crowd, and I know it's not their fault. But at the same time, I've got turned off. I was getting turned off before. I hate the direction of WWE, and really, they drive the bus. I know I can enjoy Impact, I can enjoy AEW and New Japan and all, and I do parts of it. I do, but WWE is when they got their head on straight and they're attracting the mainstream media, wrestling gets bigger and better. Yeah, wrestling gets bigger and better. Yeah. And they just turned me off a lot. Even before the whole pandemic, they were just they were just doing silly things, and not because I'm so smart. I've never ran a promotion, but I could book one out of nowhere. I'm not suggesting that, but again, I paid for my opinion. I need as a fan, I think, to reconnect, and I didn't this whole past year. And then when the pandemic hit, I really was negative towards the no crowd, and I don't know what I thought they should do. I definitely, as the year ended, I think all promotions are doing the best they can with what they have. Absolutely. But I need to reconnect. That's my personal New Year's resolution, is like, I got to reconnect. I'm distant.
Gregor's.
Yeah, mine is.
No, I'm not afraid to say it. I did not know that Big E won the IC title until you just told me. I had no idea.
He won it last Friday on SmackDown.
Yeah, I don't even watch. I haven't watched SmackDown in like 9 months, like legitly.
I didn't watch it, but I keep in touch with what's happening. I saw he won it, and I was like, well, okay, let's put it on network. But
that's how distant I am, and you guys know me. How much I used to number my tapes, for fuck's sake, like, you know, and have a list of like, 75, number 75 is WrestleMania 2. You want to watch it right now?
Well, the IC title with Big E's the test. You all know that, even though the IC title's been diminished greatly for decades, but it's all another podcast.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I want to see my resolution, or WWE's resolution, should be find a way to make WrestleMania include fans in some way. I think you've got until April. It's going to be. We've already seen WrestleMania without fans. Even if you can't have full. And I'm not talking. Do something else besides Thunderdome. But you've got to find a way to slowly roll out. Wrestling's got to. We've got to start getting some fans in there.
You can get 10,000 fans in there, Craig, in that stadium. You can do it. You can get 10,000 fans in there and spread them out. They'll do it. They've already allowed it for certain bowl games and other items. And I hate to be that guy. It's Florida. They just don't care. They're going to get people in there.
And you know what? Save it for WrestleMania. If they're not sure, if I want one moment this year with WWE.
In other words, their first live crowd should be WrestleMania. I agree with that.
Royal Rumble's going to be.
Think about it. Yeah.
Royal Rumble's going to be fucking weird without fans.
Right.
But make it WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my resolution.
I like it. I think
we just tuned into Royal Rumble and like, there's 80,000 here. I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, they just decided to go for it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think you're right, Craig. We have to get back to some realm of normalcy, and by the time you get into April, maybe you allow enough fans that have gotten both their COVID vaccines, you know, and they're in there.
Mania was a saving grace for me, even without fans this year. It was a very tough time in April, and just watching that 2-night thing with the cinematic and seeing how they tried, it helped me a lot mentally and got me kind of like through. Like, let's do that again and take it to the next level in 2021 with fans.
Yeah,
we need it. We deserve it. We selfishly, me.
Well, we meaning us and the wrestling community and the people that put on the show. They all deserve it. I mean, it's been a trying time and more than just wrestling. And I think that, you know, everything they've done to make it work. I told you guys before, the Thunderdome thing, while not perfect, other other shows picked it up. Like The Voice picked it up. They put fans behind them on panels to have something. And that didn't happen without, once again, WWE kind of led the way in weird ways, you know? So I think
the Thunderdome, if you watched the Fox New Year special last night with there they are, they had big screens with every square had a person in it. And that's like Thunderdome.
I'm telling you there. And I don't know anyone else that did it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. They figured it out. Vince, like, find a way. You know, I think that's what it was, you know, and they, once again, they are the innovators, and, you know, that's where we are. So I think they've earned the fact, to Craig's point, to get fans in WrestleMania in April in Florida, and then hopefully Los Angeles, and then Vegas. Let's go, you know, for the next 2 years. That would be great. We can actually get back out there. So we can hope. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P 2019. Click on Linktree. You can find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Google Podcast. And anything we talk about is obviously inspired by the WWE Network. So do yourself a favor and get your free month today to watch anything WWE, WCW, ECW, and more. This is Dave, Jess, and Craig with the O.W.P signing off. Have a good one.
Happy.
Those who claim to be your enemy, voluntarily wear a mask to protect you and others. Acquiescing to your will slain, for death of freedom of thought and choice. Those who just don't kneel, don't let you count. To your W.P, this world is wrong to be.